as Liz is how we met the wonderful Tina. So
Yay!
definitely appreciate Liz. And I think I'm the last one to go. So I'm Iris Hosea, co-founder of Festively with Patty. And the best part about our job is doing things like this, when we actually get to see the faces behind all the magic, from the planners and the makers and the bakers of the event. And so out of tonight's presentation, I always love listening to tips from Tina. But like Patty said, want to find out more, so that we can continue to share with all the businesses in our community to help us all grow and do better every day, and just be more successful businesses in this event industry.
Fantastic. Well, thanks everyone. So Tina, we're going to go ahead and get started with the show here, and make sure everything is here. So I know sometimes it's a little shy to say it, but Tina, you are, as the group here all agree, a wonderful planner, over 10 years of experience. Use your project management skills to create processes to streamline wedding and event planning. We can all agree you are also, like Liz, very much a systems queen, and we want to learn all about it. You have a bachelor's in multimedia production, worked for companies such as Disney, ABC, and Honeywell. So very well qualified to lead today's discussion. So I'll kick it over.
Good old corporate life.
Yeah. Go for it.
So is that my quote?
It is.
And I know Linda and my wedding planners here have the same, like, as the planners, our reputation is really on the line. Anybody that we recommend is a reflection of us. So therefore, these things must be in order for me to pitch you as a vendor to a client. So that's sort of how this topic came about.
Absolutely.
Cool. All right. So first things first, I can't pitch you unless you have at least the website. I know everybody's going off of IG these days, and they put all their portfolio on there. They even put their pricing in the stories that people could look at and highlight. But at the end of the day, if my client's not on IG, they won't want to download it. They don't want to open it up. I would love to have you to at least have a website. It could be just the one pager, very basic, with maybe location, a little bit about you. They want to make that connection with you, and most importantly, how do we contact you and what service area you provide or where you're located. And if you have, a list of services that you provide as well, or product that you have, like, they think, good job, Tiffany, on putting your product online so that people can see and browse and maybe add it to their shopping cart. That way, when it gets to you, they already have a list instead of asking you back and forth. It saves you a lot of times, and it's one of the reasons, number one thing that I double check before I vet you and send you to my client.
Yeah, and you mentioned specifically, like, include your name, right?
Yes.
Even that's something as
like we want to know who you are and who are we contacting, who are we talking to. I don't want to email you and go to who may concern, but like, hello, I would love to know if it's Cindy, if it's going to be Dandy, or if it's going to be Iris. That way I have a name attached to your business.
Absolutely. All right. Next up.
I know a lot of mom and pop shops, even me in the beginning, and I think that's the way too. When we first started IG, we were just posting things that's interesting to us, within things we've done that we're very proud of. But somewhere down the line, and I used to post my kids' picture, I took them all off. Social media is kind of like your main source of leads. So if you have a mixture of things like your family photos and kids photos versus just your product and your portfolio, it's really hard for me to show my clients what you're capable of. They sort of want to see what caliber you're delivering in terms of your services and products. So if you want, this is what I do. I have a personal account for all of my kids stuff, trips, travels, and whatnot. And I do put it on my business account. If anybody who wants to know more about me, they could click on that one and see my personal stuff. So I would say best to keep things separate so that we can really see what you could provide in terms of your services and your products. Yeah, so there's some tips in there that share about you. If you want to share more about you, you could definitely do like Friday introductions, or you could do on stories. You could definitely share behind the scene in reels. Those are things that you could do. But once in a while, I think people still want to make that connection with you. So like on my Friday introduction, sometimes it'll be a picture with me and my kids because I'm working so that I could provide for them. And I want my clients to know that like I'm a person. I'm just not just a business and not just a friend. So that
I'll
number two.
also, I'll add when your clients, I guess, depending on how social media savvy they are, do they scroll through or do they also look at the highlights? Because I found myself looking at the highlights quite a bit just to kind of see a category of one particular product that I might be looking for.
Exactly. So if you have highlights on your Instagram, you can use that to organize, you know, if you have, let's say Tiffany, for example, I'm going to use you as an example, you have all of your catering stuff behind the scene, how you're prepping the food, that's all catering. People want to see that, they want to hire you for that. If you have a separate highlight just for all your bakeries and your goods and, you know, beautiful cakes that you make, put another highlight for that. That really help people hone in on, oh, you know what, Tiffany's really skillful on this and I really want to hire her. So that helps. And one of the things that I also want to encourage you to do is, you know, once you get a review from your client, even if it's just a thank you letter, a thank you email, or thank you text message, put that on your Instagram highlight because people want to see that as well. It doesn't have to be like an official review on Yelp or on anything on websites and things like that. You know, put that on your Instagram so people could see, you could really vet for you because that's your real customer feedback.
Excellent.
Okay, next.
All right, moving right along.
Moving along. So if you're not transparent with your prices, I know I don't have my prices listed on my website because as a planner, we don't know the details of your event. Like I don't know the location, I don't know how many people, I don't know how complex it is, I don't know how many vendors you have. So I don't have my pricing on there because everything is customized. But if you have a product service or if you have a starting price, or for a photographer, if you have rate sheet or packages, definitely encourage you to create something. Even if it's not posted on your website, you could have a PDF spreadsheet that, or a PDF brochures or something that you could send to the planners. So when our client reach out to us and ask, hey, Tina, do you know any bakeries that could do my wedding cake? And this is my budget. So we are the one doing research for them. So we will be reaching out to people that we know and we trust, and we want to know, hey, are you available to do this cake? And what are your pricing? Maybe a starting point would be good. And if you have anything that you want to customize and embellish and add ons, let me know what those fees are at a cart, or maybe you need to talk to the client. Then at that point, I will connect you with the client to discuss the details. But I kind of need to know, like, I don't want to send my client somebody who's too expensive or somebody that's not the right fit. So clarifying on pricing is going to be really helpful as well.
I think part of this discussion too is just making it easier for you to be able to move quickly, because you have so many things that you're doing. And if it's kind of hard to work with you because you're wanting to know all the details before you'll even like give any bit of a price, it's just that much more work, right? And so I think you kind of gave an example initially of a florist, and we totally get it, right? Like every flower has its own price point. But if you have something like you said, like a starting price, and
or a minimum,
minimum, you're right. Yeah, something that helps to guide that conversation. That makes, and you kind of know that, right? You know it. It's just we haven't captured it in a document. So this is something that just from a planner's perspective may make you just less likely to be either booked or continued on if you just don't have that ready to go and to have that conversation.
You just basically fell through the crack if you don't have that ready for me. Because let's say I need to find 5 photographers for tomorrow for a client, and you don't have something for me, you have to scramble to put something together, I would basically move on to the next one, so that I could do my presentation to my clients. So readily available, something, it doesn't have to be published, public. You could just have it in the background so that you could send it to me right away when I ask for something.
And it's so funny we're on this topic. I'm literally in this process now. So there's a Festively client who wants something. And so I reached out to the business and I'm like, I have a client, they want this, but they want to have an idea of the price range. And so there's this whole process that I have to go through just to get, and then the link wasn't working. And now we're emailing each other back and forth. But if I'm shopping 5 different people, like Tina said, you're probably going to fall off my radar because it's too difficult to work with you. Yeah.
Ooh, bless you.
Okay. All right. Moving right along. You don't have a business structure.
Right. So business structure, and Liz and I are gurus on this. We want to know if you have a process in place. Like, we don't want to hand over our clients if you're a mess, if you don't have a process in place, you randomly ask them questions and you don't have a structure in place. So for example, like, I want to know what your booking process is. Do you take a deposit, and is there a contract? What are your terms and conditions? Because I want to know all of these before I have my client pay you or pay or sign for anything. So those are the important things that you need to sort of vet out, like and you probably have this in the back of your head already and you just haven't implemented into a step-by-step. All you have to do is really write it down. Like, step 1, if you have an inquiry that comes in, what do? Oh, I need to check if I'm available. So check availability. So there was a front end of it where the client knows, oh, I will get back to you. I'm going to check if I'm available. Give them a heads up that you're checking so that they understand that you're working on it. So I want to know if you have a process on that as well. And other parts of the business structure is basically some vendors must have insurances in order to work at some venues. So like most of the hotel venue that we work with or the wedding venue we work with, vendors are required to have liability insurance. And if you're like catering or anything that has to do with food, probably need to make sure you have, proper food handling license, or if you're serving drinks, if you're a bar service, you have proper liquor license or bartending license or some kind of permit that shows that you are legit. I do check for all of those before I would send your information to my clients, just to make sure, even for limousine services, car services, I check to make sure they are licensed with the transportation department. They have insurance, they are bonded. There is a contact person that I could reach back to if anything happens during the ride or something like that. I definitely highly recommend everybody to have a contract to spell out what's included in the package or your service and what are the cancellation policies. What's the plan if you're sick, you're not available? Do you have a backup in order to fulfill the contract? Just think about all the questions that you've already answered your clients. You probably have those emails somewhere saved, going back and forth. Grab all of those and put it in a Google Sheets or Google Doc and just start capturing those, and then start ordering them, and then you'll figure out what your process is going to be. That way, when a planner reach out to you and say, oh, so what do you need for booking? You'll have something in place ready to go. You can even send that up to me. I would love to see those, because they'll be like, oh, great. So we're over here. Next thing to, and I will basically tell my client, like, yeah, if you're ready to book, this is the contract, you can read them. And you need a 25% deposit, and the final payments due 30 days out. Cindy would know this, and Dandy probably knows too. We research all of those ahead of time on behalf of our clients so that we can hand it over to them ready to book. If you don't have those in place, again, the next person who has it is probably going to take that space.
And I'll add, the booking process is key because you were saying Cindy, is part of your team. So having the booking process is great when you then start bringing on team members and you can kind of hand this off to them I know Patty and I are having that same conversation about handing things off, but having the process in place to make it easier for us to hand it off to staff members. So I know everybody is ready to grow their business, right? So we want to make sure that we have all the processes in place to, for the proper growth and to sustain that growth.
Yes.
Linda has a question.
So Tina, my question to you is, it's interesting because sometimes I'll do a partial planning too. I know it's almost like full planning. That's the way it ends up being. But
Yep.
My question is, so usually if we're full planning, we'll research all this stuff, make sure, the I's are dotted, T's are crossed. But what about if you're doing a partial planning? How do you go about it if, like, say the bride has already reached out to certain vendors and then you find out maybe one or two you already know that they don't have that license? How do you handle that?
We go back and tell them, like, I don't think you should hire those vendors because they're not licensed and they're not insured. If anything happens, are you going to be liable? We pretty much basically, the client would have to take on that risk. So we've had a couple that wants to hire, actually not a couple, but the couple's parents went to hire a taco catering, and we checked that he does not have a license, he does not have insurance, he basically is not legit in terms of like serving people food. So it ended up to be, I give them all my advice. If they want to still move forward, I just told them, like, just so you know, if anybody gets sick from this food, you're liable. And they decide at that point if they want to move forward or not. So, but in terms of like, if they're finding their own vendors, that's on them, right? But if I'm providing them a list of vendors, I want to make sure my vendors are vetted.
Right.
Do you recommend that folks, when you talk about these types of insurances, because some are specific, like bartender needs this type of insurance or whatnot, do you recommend that they just put that outright on their website to make sure that it's really clear?
Yeah, we tell them that we're licensed. Like, I have musicians that I'm currently talking to, and some of them don't have insurance, but they need to plug into the hotel system. And I'm like, you need to get a day of insurance. It's not expensive. You should be able to get that for like $50 or something like that.
Yeah.
But something that gives us the sense of like, you're covered if anything happens, even if it's your cable tripped over people and people fell, and there's injury involved, there's liability insurance. It's really important so that you have coverage for things like that.
Excellent. Thank you. All right. Oops.
Thanks, Linda.
Tina,
There
I
you
have a
All right,
question.
no problem.
How
Yes, Dandy.
How advanced can you respond to a client if they email you and ask you for proposal, like to ask for like pricing? Like, how advanced do you respond right away, or do you give a couple of days, or?
My own rule of thumb is 48 to 72 hours. So within 3 days, I will have a proposal for you. Unless I am slammed at back-to-back events, I will at least give them a heads up. I say, hey, I am currently slammed right now. I will get back to you in terms of quoting in a week. And if they're not okay with it, I know I have to accept that they're moving on. And if they're okay with it, they're waiting for me, then I will get that to them as soon as I can. So giving them a heads up, manage the expectation when they will be receiving it. If you tell them you're gonna have it to them tomorrow, but you don't, that's not cool, right? So that would be more of a disappointment. So you could also put that on your website or your Instagram, which we will get to later down in the slide. I think we mentioned that. What's your turnaround time, for a quote? And if you need something like, I know you're doing a lot of florals, it has to be very specific. You need to know the quantities. Putting together a questionnaire is going to be super helpful so that you could collect all that information up front and not have to go back and forth. And you'll be able to base on quote from that. And on your quote, you could always say, this is the preliminary estimate, not the final bill, just to get you started. Put something like that as your terms and conditions. That way you could get in front of the vendors, in front of the clients, in front of the wedding planners to continue pitching you. Liz has a question. Is it in the chat? Let me see.
I don't see it in the chat.
I don't
I
see
mean,
it.
okay, hi.
Okay.
It was not so much a question as it was just a remark.
Yes.
So that also applies to you as well. You have to make sure that you have insurance liability as well. And it's usually like Tina will be able to quote what it is. It's like $1,000 liability, and it depends. Think about what it was the last venue asked you to have. That is the coverage that you need to have. And generally speaking, you can get that for like about $50. I think I'm paying $50 a month for mine. But that is one of the things that you need to put on your business checklist, that you are insured. And it's relatively easy. And any of us here can give you recommendations for getting that if you don't have it. But this,
Yes.
the whole thing of like just getting it whenever you have an event, that just gets kind of tiresome. So just go ahead and get your insurance, like get an insurance policy now.
It's really not expensive to get business insurance depending on the type of business that you're in. And myself, I have professional liability insurance. That means if I messed up, my insurance will cover anything that I mess up for, like omissions and errors and things like that. And then I have liability insurance that covers if my equipment or my setups trip over people and cause injury. So that's another insurance that I have covered.
There's a
most
question.
Yeah,
There
go
was a
ahead.
question in the chat that was asking about the resource for your liability insurance.
Yeah, so $2.99 is awesome. I use Hiscox. I could type it in here.
I've heard of that before. I've never.
Yeah, I like it a lot because it's a lot of self-service. Whenever I need it, I could just go in and request a court insurance certificate and send it to my vendors and my venues. And they just deduct from my bank account like $70 a month for all the coverages that I need. It's super easy and it's online. So that's one I use. I think Liz might have other resources. You want to unmute, Liz?
Liz also
Or-
has Hiscox.
Liz also have access. Okay.
Yeah, I also have Hiscox. They've been wonderful. I've had them for like years. It's got to be like a decade. On and off. Their customer service is really good too. Like if you have some special considerations, you give them a call. They're very, very responsive.
Mhm.
Again, you can go online and do the certificate
COI,
yourself. So
yeah.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
COI is the term that you should know. It's certificate of liability insurance. A lot of the venues or event planners will ask you for that. Sometimes you have to add them as add the venue as the additional insurer so that they're also covered if they wanted to file a claim.
How do I unraise my hand?
Or
you click on
I
it.
got you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, so selecting the right insurance, I think, is really important. If you ever have to file a claim, you want them to be able to come through for you. So there are some cheapy ones out there. I don't know how good they are, but I've had to file a claim before because somebody stole the projector and I was responsible for it. And I was able to file a claim, and that was part of my professional and error liability insurance that covered it and paid my client. They were so happy that I had insurance. And the hotel was not going to be responsible for it because it was in one of the contract clauses that anything that you brought in, we're not responsible for, even though it's in the ballroom. So want to
Oh,
make sure they
wow.
pay out.
That's a really great point you made there, Tina. Thanks for adding that.
Yeah. Cool. So moving on to the next one. If you're a creative professional, I would love to know where your creative process is. I always welcome vendors to chat with me. I have on my Calendly that vendors could book a 30 minutes chat with me to just go over introductions and get to know me and get to know them. I want to know how you design things, like for flowers, like what information do you need? How do you pick out the flowers that you think it's better fit for your clients? And for caterers, like I want to know how do you come up with your menu? Do you take a questionnaire? Do you want to interview them? You want to chat with them, my clients? So those are the things that helps me understand how you work so I can help it along and push it along with my clients to sort of vet for you and understand. And so that it makes it us working together much easier too, so that we're all on the same page.
I think this is helpful too, just we've seen all types of vendors and their kind of onboarding, right, process. And there's this one bartender, I don't know, I keep bringing up bartenders, but one bartender.
We hire a lot of bartenders.
I guess I do. My go-to vendor. But anywho, the process was like, okay, great. And then they DM'd me like 50 photos of drinks, you know, and it was very like overwhelming. Like I didn't enjoy that, right? Like, and I don't know what the difference is. They looked pretty, but it wasn't a very you know, just easy experience, I guess. And so I had to kind of like go back and figure out like what he was saying later on and versus the messaging. So we could have, you know, put that on a Google Doc and, you know, had some kind of a way to select your top or whatever it is. And I'm sure it wasn't easy for him too to select 50 pictures and send them over. So anyhow, I think, you know, this creative process is really interesting because it is good to know that up front. And then similarly, like, I don't know that I would recommend him to someone else just based on that. Now, we haven't used him yet, so we'll see how good those drinks are, but could make up for it.
Yeah, I really think it's important to have your creative process figured out as well, because it helps you in your business and moving on to the next one. And the more that you do, the more that you could refine it so that it helps you in the long run. For example, like for catering, like how do you figure out your menu? How many courses of salad and how many selections they could pick? Have all of those sort of written down somewhere so that it's easy for us planners to know, like, oh, how many salads can they pick for tasting sessions, so that we know and we're able to relay that to our client. If we know, especially if we know their taste, what they're looking for, if they have any allergies, we could give it to you right off the bat, so you don't, you know, propose something that is not going to interest them. So knowing all those things really helps, again, put you in front of our clients.
Absolutely.
Next, we're on number 6.
That's too many buttons, yes.
You're not easy to communicate with. We all have those people that ghost on you, or like you're not available, or I get an automated response every time I email you. Those drive me crazy, by the way. You may not have time to get back to all of your clients and inquiries and questions. And Liz and I were talking about this the other day, and we're like, where do we leave out that conversation? Was it on Instagram? Was it on Facebook? Was it email or text message? Like, there's too many forms of communication. If you are overwhelmed, just cut it back to say, hey, any inquiries, any client communication has to go through email. Keep it at that. And put that on your website, put that on your, you know, IG, so that people know how to reach you. I've had to, again, research for photographers for a client, and I would Instagram message them, but they don't get back to me for like 5 days. But if I go to their website and submit a contact form, they get back to me the next day. And I'm like, oh, by the way, I messaged you on Instagram. She's like, oh, we don't check Instagram. I'm like, you should put that on your website or in Instagram, so that I don't waste my time, because I was waiting for you to get back to me, because I respond to my Instagram. I didn't know that you don't. So figure out a best way for you to communicate with your clients would be really helpful. And what's the preferred method that you prefer to talk to us and talk to the client. There are some times that they want to talk to our client directly right away, and I'm just kind of like, well, I don't know you, I don't know what you offer before you could talk to my client. I mean, I want to make sure you're the right fit before I connect you together. And once it is, then it's open communications. I am not one of the planners where, you know, like you have to, I'm the gate, they have to everything go through me. I'm more of a collaborative effort. That's how I manage my my events. Once they booked you or they're ready to book you, it's an open communication so that everybody's on the same page. So like there are ways that you could communicate that. So you could do autoresponders. especially if you're slammed on the weekends. I think my autoresponder is usually on the weekends if I have an event. It does not say, I'll get back to you tomorrow. It basically tell them a specific day that I'm going to be back in the office and respond to emails. And I do give them, if it's an emergency, a way to contact me. So if it's, a photographer that for some reason doesn't have my phone number on the day of and trying to email me, and get the autoresponder, at least in my email response to him or her, it says, if it's emergency and you're working on an event this with me this weekend, this is the number you need to call. So they have a way to reach you in case of emergencies. Give them a time frame where you're expecting what you're expecting to return the phone call, kind of like what Dandy was asking. Is it going to be 48 hours? Is it going to be 24 hours? Or is it going to be 72 hours? I wouldn't recommend more than 72, just because again, they are moving on to the next one. We're moving on to the next person who will get back to us as soon as they can. And in this day and age, instant gratification is sort of how this generation getting married, or people looking for vendors are expecting. Like, I text you and I expect you to text me right back. If you can, you could at least say, hey, I am at an event right now. I cannot get back to you, but I will at this time. So that's going to really help set the expectation. Questions? No. Next.
Yeah. No, great point about kind of like the demands of like today's consumer and how quickly the expectation is, and assuming no one's doing anything else but responding to their note.
Right. 7, this is more of a proactive tip. If there's a vendor or a planner that you love and you've been following, you want to work with her or him, the company, go ahead and reach out and pitch to them, because I meet so many awesome vendors by having them introducing themselves to me. Like, and then we have like that 30-minute chat on Zoom, or we meet up for coffee and we go over if we're in a line in terms of like how our process, how do we create, if we have the right clientele that matches. So don't be afraid to pitch yourself. And in your pitch though, like make sure I listen to all of you do your introduction, and I got some, that very detailed info about what you do. But then there are some that are just kind of like, so what specifically what kind of food do you offer, Tiffany? If there's a specific type of, what's the word?
Specialty.
Yeah, specialties. Yeah. I want to know what your specialties are. What makes you different than another caterer? Because right off the bat, if you give me that, I'm like, oh, I don't have somebody in my database that could do that. So next time somebody mentions it, or one of my clients says, I really want this, and they'd be like, oh, I got somebody to refer you. So don't just tell me you're a caterer. Don't just tell me you're a florist. Tell me what your specialties are, or what you love to do, or the type of event that you like to work with. That will really help you stand out in terms of a sea of other vendors that are available that could probably do the same thing. Yeah, and a pitch could be helpful to share with friends as well. Yeah, so things like this, like if Dandy's looking for a wedding photographer, I could send her somebody that I think it's be a good fit. So knowing that, it's be really helpful.
And building on what you've said before, when you're preparing for your pitch, you have some of those materials. You have your rate sheet, you have your website, and other things that can be easily shared. But I love that specializing element of it, because you mentioned it's not just you and your clients, but you have a wonderful network of planners, and they might be looking for someone specific. So then it's easy to recommend you to them as well. So
yes.
Adana had a question.
Oh,
Adana,
go
ahead.
Unmute.
What would you? Oh, I see it. Okay.
So my question was, if you're a wedding planner and I'm looking to connect with wedding planners, what am I going to put in the subject line of my email to get you to
Ooh.
open it?
Yes, Liz could maybe help me with this one. She's the writer here. I think just to get personal, like I want, if you, my name is on my website. So if you could address them by name, it would be definitely get you front of the page, somebody that recognized my name. Like, hey, Tina, I'm a vendor or something like that. I would vendor introduction or something like that will get my attention versus just LA photographer or something like that. Liz, do you have any insights on what subject like they should put?
Well, I mean, it depends on what is it that you want. You want to connect with other wedding planners for what purpose?
I think they want to like do a initial introduction to pitch their service for, you know, potential referrals.
Right.
Oh, okay. Well, just basically probably just along the same lines of, you know, I'm a wedding planner. It's something like just start out with looking to connect with other wedding planners. That's pretty basic. And then in the body,
specialty pitch.
yeah, looking to connect with other wedding planners. And then in the body say, hey, you know, this is what I do. This is where I live. I'm really looking to connect with other wedding planners this season. And then in my response would be, oh, cool. We've got like this meetup every month.
Yes, come hang out with us.
Come hang out with us. Or yeah, there's these networking events that I know that are going on where you can actually go and hang out with other wedding planners.
Ooh, fun.
Yeah, exactly. Where you can actually introduce yourself to people and stuff like that. So I think that it is a good idea to reach out, because if this is somebody that you do like, that you've admired their work or whatever, they should be open to letting you know, well, this is what we're doing. You know, at this point, especially these days, wedding planners are hanging out with other wedding planners.
We do. So Liz and I are, I started this little group of wedding planners because COVID hit and we were kind of like sort of picking each other's brain and sort of helping each other in terms of resources. And like during COVID, how do we deal with situations and bounce off ideas with each other? We started this group of wedding planners and we're always like, do you know a caterer that could do this? Do you know a photographer that's right in this price range? Or do you know a musician that could do this and that? So we'll always have, we love to have a whole bunch of vendors in our database to be able to refer you. So this
and we're also leaders of a group called Rising Tide Society in Pasadena, which is a really great networking group. It's online. It's got a Facebook group. We meet one way or another every month or so. And so, yeah, I mean, if you just keep reaching out, people are going to be able to show you, tell you about these opportunities. So that is a really good idea. Yeah.
You know, when you talk about having someone pitch, you know, looking at the slide that we have now, is it that you want them to send you a link to see photos of their work, or you wanting them to put it in the email?
To make a genuine connection with me. I've had so many emails. I get a lot, just so you know. I get a lot of spams. And it's canned emails, basically a template that is sent out to everybody that they just went to Google and found all the local wedding planners and sent out the same emails. I just recently got this email that says, oh, I love that you do lavish weddings, and I don't. So I will not be calling this person back. Obviously, they didn't do the research and get to know me and understand what type of business that and we're in the line of what we do. But for Adana, an example, I know you want to pitch. I think you should definitely pitch that whole floral thing, because even if the client don't buy it from you, the planner's mine as a gift to our client. Because we have picture of the photos and we will want to give that as a wedding gift or something like that for the client. That's when you make that connection, introductions, and start spreading, because then word spreads and then, you know, orders are going to come in. So just make sure you have your processes ready.
Actually, that's a really good
time from receiving to delivering.
That's a really good tip you shared with Adana. I like that.
Yeah, thank you.
So we're getting a little bit close on time here, so I don't want to
let's wrap it up.
rush too much, but yeah, let's keep going.
Cool. All right. So photo speaks 1,000 words. We know that. You may have the most amazing cake ever, but if you took a photo of your own on your own without a professional done, it doesn't have to be professional. I could do it on my iPhone, but download some kind of filter or an app that helps you really jazz it up. And background, obviously, is important. Perception and reality is what clients are looking for. They want to be able to find that product and it looks pretty and it looks professional. So make sure your pictures of your service or your portfolio looks amazing, because that's all they're really looking for. And if you're just starting out, you don't have great photos, but invest in hiring somebody to do it for you, or maybe a barter deal. There are a lot of photographers that might be able to do barters, exchange services. That's one way to do it. Or talk to planners. We do a lot of photo shoots and style shoots. Festively does it as well. Participate in that, because then you get awesome photos and you don't have to supply everything. You just supply your products and we combine everybody else's products and services together to create something really beautiful. And you'll have that, again, relationship building and then great photos for your portfolio. Let's see. What else did we put there? Invest in a class.
Oh, sorry. I thought you were
No, you're good.
talking.
This is good. We'll move on. You don't have an easy way to accept payment. Like, my client's ready to book you. So how do we pay you? How do we sign? And if you just tell me to Venmo, great. What's your handle? Like, we can search your name. And Venmo has a personal account now and then a business account. Most of my clients will go for the business account. So you will have to pay the fee because it has certain type of protection when they make payments. So same thing with, if you're expecting any kind of payments. If you prefer having to pay, PayPal, if you have any specific instructions so that you can avoid the fee, give them a heads up. Give me a heads up. If you want to charge the credit card fee and pass it on to the client, that's okay. We're okay with that in California, as long as you disclaimer, you put it in the, if it's going to be 3%, 2%, 3.5%. That's usually how much the rate is, just passing it on to the client. And a lot of them will basically say, oh, can I just Venmo you personal or pay you cash and things like that. And that's okay. But I want to be able to see or know what payments you accept in order to booking. And I want to know when the final payment is due. How do you want the final payment to be paid? So having an invoice system would be really helpful as well. Or if you have originally in the contract that has everything spelled out, it's all in there. Don't send me an invoice that doesn't tell me how to pay you, because I'd be just sitting here with the invoice and I wouldn't know what to do with it. And my client would be asking me, so how do I pay this person? Make sure everything is written down in there. I know Festively has a new system that you could use and sign up for a directory to be on the directory and payment systems in there. Liz is a guru on setting up Honeywell. Honeybook is a CRM system that also accepts payments. There are tons of them out there. You just have to find the one that works for you. I think Linda has a question.
So Tina, you mentioned something that I just kind of want clarification, because I always thought California was against the law to add on that percentage for the credit card fee. I thought it was.
It was, not anymore.
When did it change?
A couple of years ago, I think.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah, all you have to do, you have to tell them that there's a 3% fee. You have to tell them ahead of time. It has to be transparent.
Yeah. No,
So
definitely.
So if you don't tell them and you want to tack on that 3% fee once you figure out they want to pay with a credit card, then it's a little late. So.
Oh no, I have it in my contract, but I just didn't know about the fee though.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah,
I feel like that's something that we should make this huge announcement about. Like, I should go on like Facebook and be like, wait, you can do the credit card fee now.
Yes. Maybe
yeah.
that'll be one of your sessions. Get real on Wednesdays or something.
Go ahead.
And go back to the credit card fee, things like that. I actually absorb all the fees. So I just up my charges in order to cover that. And that's part of my cost of doing business. so that my clients don't have to work through like the whole credit card fee and things like that. And I don't have to worry about, did I charge that person credit card fee? Do I not charge them person fee? Or I know Honeybook does it and Tave does it. That's the system that we use could add on those fees, but I just absorb it so that I don't have to deal with it. And, they don't feel like I'm, Zelle Pay, Dandy mentioned Zelle Pay. Zelle Pay is also another way, but that's something that you kind of have to talk to your accountant about, making sure that it's okay, and your CPA. I currently do accept Zelle Pay with my clients if they decide not to pay with credit card, because it's easier. They have everything set up already. And I do report all my incomes, so don't worry about that. Don't think of it as, like a way to cheat your taxes. So don't do that.
I think on that point too, you are able, like all the credit card fees as a business entity, all the credit card fees that you pay are a tax write-off.
Expense.
Yeah, it's an expense. So even if, we absorb the fee, I have a way to get credit for it on the back end.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So,
So you have a way to expense it when you file your taxes. That's
Right.
part of the bank fees and credit card fees that you can do. Cool.
software.
Last one.
Yeah.
You appear to be a one-man show. That's us.
It is.
Sometimes we have really big projects, and then we want to be able to know that you are able to handle it. If you're like a one-man show, it's really hard for me to pitch you because I don't know if you're able to handle it. Are you able to hire staff to help you, because staffing is crazy shortage right now and it's really hard to find good help. And I want to know if you have a team or if you can assemble a team. That's going to be kind of like a deal breaker almost sometimes if I have a large project that I need. Let's say I need full floral installations. I need 20 centerpieces. I need a specific I have like 10 bridal party. Like that's a lot of work. And if you are not able to handle that, like I would be hesitant to pitch you because you can't handle the volume. So in how you could show me that you can handle it, maybe during the calls or initial consultations, and then we'll probably ask the same questions, like, are you able to handle this? And just tell me like if you're able to bring on staff. Like I would tell my clients, like if they're just looking for a planner, I would tell them that I have 2 associate planners. If anything happens to me, they'll be able to take on without me. They'll be able to cover for me. I also have a team of event assistants that I could bring, to do the setups and making sure everything goes off without the hitch on the day of. And that's what they're looking for. So for businesses like, is Tiffany still here? Like catering and things like that.
Oh yeah, I'm still here.
Yeah. So they want to know, like, I want to know how many staff do you have, for each event. It might not be something that you have on the W-2, on the books all the time, but are you able to gather, 10 servers for a big wedding? Or are you able to handle a big cake order and deliver it at the right time? So those are things that's going to be something that you should share with your wedding planner or your event planner that you're talking to get you in front of the bugs. Yeah, I think that's it, right?
I think so. Yeah. And then just, as a wrap up, really, we really appreciate you, Tina, coming in and sharing all of your amazing tips and the whole group really adding to the flavor with the questions and everything else. Tina, of course, is available to answer anything. And I think, feel free to reach out to the group here. We did want to just share, Festively is a big passion of Iris and I's, and we are moving forward with, I think I mentioned earlier on in our introductions, we have this directory, this online directory, this ability to shop and look for amazing vendors. But we're also adding this community element. So Liz will probably be reaching out to you to get your Rising Tide Pasadena tips on building your community. You guys have built something very special, and we want to do something similar for the vendors in our network. And we're actually going to be opening up. We've been working on our revision of our website the last several months. So we're actually starting to open up our platform for new vendors. So we'd love to have you on board, or if you have other vendors that are in your network, we'd love you to share us, and we'll follow up with some information. But just, in general, we offer not only this platform, this community, but then the marketing that goes along with it to really get visibility and exposure to all the amazing work that you're doing. I just wanted to share our pricing, full transparency on what we're doing. We have kind of a free plan to just sign up and get your stuff out there into the world. We do charge a percentage of sales. And then we have this membership where we want to really provide all of these wonderful resources to you. So we have several plans that you can take advantage of. But in the end, it's all about leveling up and growing together. So anything we can do to help, any feedback for us, any further workshops that we can host. We are so excited to be bringing so many great vendors together to learn and grow from each other. So thank you everyone so much. And we can't wait to continue to work together in the future.
And a big thank
Thanks for
you to
having me.
Tina.
Thank you. Thank you. I hope this was helpful. It's just some of the things that I find through over the years, that my little pet peeves that I want to make sure you guys are able to cover those and get yourself more businesses.
Absolutely. Thank you, Tina. Thank you everyone.
Thank you.
Wonderful.